Hi guys, now today, as per the request one of you in the comments, I'm gonna do a little tutorial for the beginners. So when you start, you can you will get a little bit more information from me than you get through the tutorial of the game. Okay. Bear in mind, this is all based on my own experience. So there are guys more experienced, so while you're playing they might advise you otherwise, and it might be a better advice than what I'm giving you, but I know at least what I'm gonna tell you in here. I wish I knew when I started, so hopefully it will be useful. Okay, so yes, this is our home base. Okay, now because I've been playing for a while, I've already got everything upgraded, so I can't really show you how I've done it, but I will try to do my best. Okay, what we'll do, we will run through 10 points which in my opinion are the most fundamental, which you should know when you start playing. So let's start from the resources. And the resources you've got in left top corner, and you've got basically 4. Okay, so you've got concrete, which you're gonna need for your flags, for your base defense. You've got a steel, which you're gonna need for basically all troops. Tanks and trains is going to cost you more steel than aluminium, and then obviously you've got the aluminium, which all the planes or helicopters is going to cost more aluminium than the steel. And then the 4th one is the fuel, which is obvious. In terms of fuel, I never run out of fuel as such. It never been a big problem. So as long as you've got a couple of millions, you should be fine. You don't need to go crazy on fuel. So another thing about the resources, you can only produce the resources if you are below 100 million. So for example, steel, I've got 300 million at the moment. If I want to produce the resources now, and I go to the base and I click on resources, I want, let's say, 1 hour concrete, 1 hour steel. It tells me that you have reached the maximum resources, so you can't do it. So you have to be below 100 mil to be able to produce more. Okay, so I've got only 2 million of concrete, so I could probably do the concrete at the moment. Okay, now another thing, how to do it, right? So I already showed you briefly. You go to that circle thing, spinning, you click on that, and then you can choose concrete, steel, aluminium, or fuel, and then you've got 1 hour. Okay, so if you click 1 hour, it's going to cost you 1 gold, and you need a gold to do it. So for 1 hour it will be producing the concrete, and whatever you're going to get out of that 1 hour, this is what you're going to have. To be honest, I don't think you're going to get much after 1 hour. Normally you put 15 hours, and after 15 hours you've got generally a relatively high capacity, so you can play more freely. The same with the steel, aluminium, and the fuel. Now on that base I don't have an option. You can have that on a different base, where you can set the resources to be produced at all of your bases at the same time, and this is what I do most of the times. So if you have, let's say, 20 bases, you can set the concrete production for all of them for 15 hours, and then at the end of that 15 hours you're gonna have a nice amount. So just for argument's sake, on this map I've got 46 bases, and after production of steel I think I've got about 400 million, and with the 400 million of steel, you can play quite nicely. So yeah, so that is about the resources. Then you've got buildings. Okay, now the buildings, we are talking about the concrete factory, the steel factory, the aluminium factory, the oil refinery, and then you've got the command base, military central, and the power plant. Now, the first tip, in terms of resources, try to make the maximum expansion of the factories, because that will allow you after 15 hours, for example, after 15 hours of harvesting, you will get much more resources in your bases. If you just keep a very standard ones, you're gonna spend, in this case, 15 gold on concrete, and after 15 hours you might get, I don't know, let's say 15 million, right? Where if you would have a fully upgraded factory, you can have 100 million. I will do the video with the exact numbers, what you're gonna get after, after what, but that will be on the next video. So my suggestion is, in terms of factories, try to keep them to the maximum if it's possible. Now the other 3 buildings, right? Now I wouldn't worry about them until you've got an information that you need one. Okay, so for example, this one is the command base, and the command base will allow you to have more bases. So in here, the bases, I've got 47 I can have, and 46 I've got already. Now if I've got 47 and I build another APC, or I just want to get another base, I've got the information here that I need more command bases. So basically when I see that, then I'm going to build the command bases, and you just simply click on that. You cannot extend more, I've got the information, but if you don't have it, or you have only just one extension, it's going to build. Now, because I'm in recovery mode, it only costs me 1 gold, but when you're starting, it's going to be more expensive, but you have to have it. Otherwise you won't be able to grow. The same thing is with the military centrals. The military centrals correspond to these numbers here, military. Again, you don't need to worry about this until you need it, and when you're gonna need it, the game will notify you by the message that you need more military points. Okay, so at the moment in here I've got 38,000 military points, and currently I'm using 945. Now where the 945 is coming from, this is depends on your troops. So your troops takes military points. So the more troops you make, the more you're gonna have in here. And obviously if I go, in my case, up to 38,000, I won't be able to produce any more, because if I want more troops, I'm gonna have to make more military centrals. Okay, this is as simple as that. So 38,000, this is a lot, to be honest. Well, especially on that base, I probably will never go above that, but that's what it is in terms of the military centrals. And then you've got the energy. The energy that I've very rarely run out. Can't really explain too much where you need the energy. I think if you build more buildings and stuff, but again, I purely rely on the messages. If the message says I need more energy, I just put more of those buildings, and that's it. And I play, play along. So those 3 buildings, you just look at the message. If you get a message, build few of them. If you don't have a message, don't worry about it. Okay. Okay, so after the buildings, you've got last two things left in that line in here, and that's groups and gold. Okay. Now, gold is kind of straightforward. You need gold to produce resources, and basically if you want to have a proper fun, you need gold, and the gold you need to buy or you need to make. I will go to that later on. Now then, the groups is the amount of groups in terms of your troops you can have in the game. So at the moment I've got 28.2 and I've got 3 already used. Now what it means that every vehicle or plane comes in groups. So you can have a tank which comes in group of 10 or 15 or 47. Every troop has different groups, but I will go to that just later on in that video. Okay. So that we covered pretty much number 2. Okay. Number 3 is going to be our base equipment. Okay. So if we go to base, our base equipment, we've got flags, which is the most important. So the flags you've got your flag itself, and then you've got your upgrade, which is the 10 times better armor, and then you've got increases weapon range upgrade. Okay, normally you do both. Okay, however, if you play and let's say you don't have gold and you start in especially, and you don't want to spend gold on the upgrade, make them as many as possible. Okay, don't put like 5 or 6, because this is very easy target, and you're gonna lose that base sooner or later. So if you're not planning to put an armor or the long range, try to make them as many as possible. Ideally, you're gonna have 2 rows. So in here on the home base I don't really need that many, but normally you would have 1 row and then you've got the second row. Now if you make the standard flags, these ones, if you make a full row and couple of the second row, now this base is no longer as vulnerable as if you wouldn't have that. Okay, so if especially when I'm starting a new map and I make few bombers, when I see those, we call it easy bases, but if I see that there is a full row with a couple on the second row, I usually tend to leave them, because I don't want to waste time to fighting against that if I have weaker bases. Okay, so remember, always put as many as possible. Okay, then you've got, I'm going to skip this one for now. You've got your radar. The radar is gonna open up the fog of war, they call it. Okay, so if you don't have the if you don't have a radar on, you're only gonna see, just slightly around your base. All the rest will be kind of darker, and therefore everything what is dark, you're not going to see anything what's happening sort of behind that fog. So if you put the radar on, the radar will increase that radius of what you actually can see. Okay, it's quite good. However, it's going to cost you, well, it's 29 gold, but I thought it was more expensive than that. But anyway, this you have to pay gold for that. Now the same with the jammer. The jammer is gonna make your base invisible. Now when I say invisible, the base will be there and anyone can sort of see, but when you come up to the base, you're only gonna see this war fog around it. So if I want to attack you, for example, and I want to see what's in it, I need to physically go into the area, so then I can see what's happening, but then after a couple of seconds it goes black again. Okay, so this is quite good, and you can see with the mainly the bigger players, pretty much everyone uses it. And then you've got the detector tower. A detector tower is for the spy planes or helicopters. So especially if you have a group of bases in one place and you want to use that as a sort of let's call it sweet spot for building your army, you don't want to be scouted by spy planes. So if you put a detector, the detector will detect any of the spy helicopters or the planes, and it's going to shoot them. So it's good to have it if you're planning to do some fighting. Okay. Now we go back to this building here. Now this building, when you produce that, that will increase your group limit. So as I mentioned before, you can get groups but by taking more bases. Okay, but let's say at the moment I've got 28 and I really need one more. Okay, so instead of, especially when you are a day or 2 days in the map, you don't really have any more weak bases, so it's not easy to get a base. Then if you really need this one extra group, you can build that building. The only downside is it's going to cost you gold. Now on this map I've already got 3, so if I want to build a 4th one, that's going to cost me nearly 800 gold. Okay, so it is expensive, and the more you build, the more it's going to cost you. Okay, now the same situation is with that building. Now this is military office. Now the military office will increase your military points of 500 or by 500. Okay, so again, if you don't have enough bases, or all your bases are fully equipped with a military central, and you still need more points, you can build that building. But again, it's going to cost you money, and the more you build, the more it's going to cost. It's not as expensive as the group limit expansion building, but it still costs you gold. Okay. Then, as you are just starting, you've got this big eye in here, and this is immediate resources plus 30 million concrete plus steel plus aluminium. Well, I've got plus 30, but normally when you're starting, you're gonna have 100, unless something changed, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna get 100 million. Now remember, in order to get this, you have to be below 100 million on any of the resources. You're only gonna get this instance resources for concrete, steel and aluminium. You're not gonna get that on fuel. And there are limitations in terms if I do that now, the next time I will be able to do it is restricted by 2 or 3 factors. Now I can't really remember at the moment, but I know that, like, at the moment, if I click on that, it informs me that only if you have less than 10 million you can do it, right? So then 10 million, sorry, yeah, that was my mistake actually. You need to be below 10 million, not 100 million. Now I remember when I first done it, I've got 100 million of everything, so I thought, well, great, I can do whatever I want. And then I've used pretty much all my steel, but I still have a lot of aluminium. You cannot do instant resources if you have more than 10 million of any of those 3. So basically your concrete, steel and aluminium has to be below 10 million in order to use it. Now you can purposely get rid of the aluminium or concrete if you want, but there is another limitation, and this is the time. So even if you play in one day and you do the instance resources, you've got the 100 million, and then you're just gonna use it all, and then you want to click again. I think there is, I can't remember now how long, but I think you need to wait like a day or two before you can do another one. And even that, I think there might be another restriction. So basically, don't count on this. When you start playing, you can use it straight away, which is great. It'll give you a nice start. But then assume that you're not going to get that anymore. Because by the time this become available again, you should really be all up and running and have your army and producing the resources. So remember, use it once and try not to count on it. Okay. Then this button, okay, this is the base extension. Now, if you have gold, in my case, I've got a discounted rate because I've already done the reset and I've been playing for a while. So I've got 127 times recovery, which cost me only 9 gold. Normally, I think this costs 30 gold. But that's what I've been using since I started to play. So you click on that, it's going to cost you 30 gold. But then once you click that, you're going to have all factories to the maximum level expansions. This is great. I'm using that all the time, and I think you should use that. Okay. Then the next button is this one, which we already been through. This is where you want to produce your resources. So you choose whatever you like, whatever you need to do it. And also, if I just go back to that quickly, you can select in that base 15-hour concrete, then on the other base just steel, and the other base aluminium, and so on. So you can do that. It's just that personally, again, it's just my personal opinion. I normally go for all bases for one resource. So just concrete, everything, and then I'll just wait another 15 hours for steel, and so and so on. Then we've got the Q button. The Q button is if you are making flags or any of the vehicles, you can click on that and you can select how many items you want to be produced at a time. Now when I say at a time is, if I click, by default you've got 10 times, okay? If I click that, okay, and now I, let's say, select the flag. So now the flags start being produced, okay? Now after 4 minutes, I'm gonna have one more flag. And normally, if I wouldn't have a queue, then I would need to go back and select the flag again, right? Which, as this is a real-time game, if you need to walk away and you just took a base, you don't want to leave the base with 1 or 2 flags, right? So you would normally set 10 flags or more, of course, then start the production. And what's going to happen after 3 minutes and 40 seconds, I've got to get a new flag, and the next flag will start the production. And it will be carry on like that until the queue ends or until you run out of the resources. So that's what it is. Then you've got, it's the almost last button. It's the half build time. Now this is something I'm using a lot. However, it is expensive. Every click, it's gonna take your build time in a half. Okay. So for example, I've got this flag here. I've got 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So let's call it 3 minutes. If I click that, now it's 1 minute 20 seconds. Now I can click another one. That's 39 seconds, right? And so on. So it's halving this, if I say that, if I can say that, it's half the time every time you click. So you can imagine if you have a bomber which is going to take you 45 minutes, you're not gonna wait 45 minutes for the bomber. well, unless you have time, but if you want to make like 10 bombers, especially when you're starting to play, you just got an air base, and you want a fleet of bombers so you can take more bases relatively quickly. You're not gonna wait that time, so you need to speed it up. That's why I say you really need gold in that game. So that's what it is. Yeah. So personally, I'm using that quite often. Now on top of that, you have another button which is not available in home base, but in a normal base you've got another button in here, and that button enables you to set the production in all of the bases. So you can set concrete, and if you have 20 bases, that button allows you to make that production everywhere. And again, this is what I'm using mostly. Okay. On the other bases, you also get another button which is like a little explosion. Now this is when you start a game, you have less than 5 bases, and for some reason you don't like it and you decided that you actually want to move. You can move your home base to the different map. Again, there are restrictions how often you can do it, but you can do it. But one of the condition is you cannot have any bases other than the home base. So if you have only 5 bases or less, you can get rid of those bases by clicking on that explosion. Yeah. So you can click explosion. You can only do that every 10 minutes. So you can't get rid of 4 bases within 30 seconds. You need to wait 10 minutes in between. But then once you are in one base, then that's it. Then you can move the base. Okay, so the next thing, which is number 4 on our list, is the small map on the side. Okay, now on that map you can see basically everything what's happening. Okay, now you can view different maps, you can view different bases. Now this is what I mentioned earlier. If the base doesn't have a fog, then you can view it, right? This is enemy base, for example, right? So I can see what's happening. If this guy is producing something, I can see what he's doing, right? Now this base, for example, look, this base, this is one of ours. Okay, it's blue, so this is one of ours, but this is enemy. Now if you can see, this guy has the radar and his view is very large. You can see everywhere around it except this base. You see the circle which is black. This is the jammer. So if I want to see what is inside that jammer space, I need to physically send a troop to discover it. But as soon as you get in here, providing this guy has a long range, as soon as you get there, the base starts shooting at you. Okay, so that's what it is. Now going back to this little map, now what is the most important in that map is the coordinations. Okay, you can see in the chat, which is in the corner, that the people will be sending you coordinations in here, right? Now, how to do it? If, let's say, I am fighting here, right? Or not fighting, let's say I'm preparing to attack this base, and I want to tell to all of my colleagues that let's prepare to attack this base, and you can write it in the chat, but it's going to be hard to explain which base you're referring to, right? So instead of trying to describe, you're just gonna put the cursor on that base and then you will click page down. Okay, when you click page down, that number will pop in on the chat. Okay, and then anyone can click on it, and wherever you are, let's say I'm in here, if I click on that, you will get to that base, so everyone knows that this is the base you're talking about. And obviously that can be referred to the base, or if you see enemy's vehicle, or you know, whatever you want to point out something, that's what you can do. Okay, so yeah, so that's the map. In that subject, I might just say, if you want to use chat, you just need to press enter. You press enter, then you type your message, and then press enter again, and that message will appear on the chat. As simple as that. Okay, so menu or settings, whatever you call this, is 3 lines in here. If you go in here, you will find right in the middle of the screen, these are all maps in that game. Okay, now everything in blue that's the maps where your alliance is at the moment. Okay, it could be even one vehicle, and that's it, and that map will be blue for you. Everything green is where your vehicles are, where either vehicles or bases, whatever you may have. Okay, the kind of yellowish goldish color is only one, and this is the map where your home base is, and that's it. And you just simply click on it, and it will get you to that map. Okay, in here you're gonna have a list of all your troops. Now at the moment in that map I only got 3, but no matter how many you got, you're gonna have them all listed here. And then you've got these buttons. Now all maps, this is, you can play with it, it's not important. You just by clicking that this is all maps, you can see that's all of your alliance map and wherever you are. And then once more, this is just your maps. Okay, then you got a selection button. This is relatively new button. By clicking on this, you can actually select or deselect a vehicle you want to move. Now normally you don't need to do it. You can actually do that selection, you know, from the actual game. So I've got the plane, so I've just selected and I can move it, right? However, if you have a lot of troops, especially if you have a lot of breeders, and above the breeders you've got helicopters or planes, it's going to be hard to pick what you want to move. So in that case, you would go in here, and then you would go on a selection and pick this particular plane, because that's what I want to move, and move it around. Okay. Then logout is what you want to log out from the game. This is your alliance, and in your alliance you're gonna see all your team, all your guys are in here. That's your ranking. You got points, bases, obviously which rank. The rank is basically in the game, which position you are in the game. And you've got information whether someone is actually online at the moment, or when it was online. So for example, Scott was 44 hours ago, and so on. Okay, and if you are co-leader, if you are selected as a co-leader, you can kick members if you don't like them. Although you've got your leader, where the leader can kick anyone basically. But that is another subject, so we can discuss it at the next video. Then if we go back, let me just go back. Then we got gold and help. Now if you go to gold, you've got another menu, and you can go back to Alliance. Now charts is where you can see all the people in the game, and that's actually the ranking, right? So number 1 is this guy. We had a pleasure of fighting with him. It was quite interesting. But yes, this is your ranking. So it's a lot of people. I think 7,000 or something. So, and you can find yourself here somewhere. And then you got setup. Now with the setup, I'm not going to be going through that because there's not much you have to do in here. Whatever's been set, this is it. You can choose some of those, like, you know, dark chat background and stuff like that. These are the settings. It'll be like your preference. I never been going through them. You know, maybe we'll do the video about that. But at the moment, this is it. It's just a setup. So let's go back to gold, and then you've got another 3 buttons here: battle report, resources transport, and gold protocol and order. So the battle report, if you click on that, you're gonna have all the latest information about what's happening with your troops or bases. Yeah. So I've got in here, for example, that at 3rd of June at 1716 on the map 1160 at this coordinations, Deutsche Stief destroys M19 multiple gun motor carriage. Okay, so this is good where, let's say you had the army, you log in next day and all of a sudden they're all gone, and you think there was a glitch in the game or something, but no, you go in here and you know exactly what's happened and who destroyed them. Then resources transport. Now this is where you can transport resources between the maps. I've made a video of that, so you can click on the link below, and it will get you there, so you can watch that. And the gold protocol, now the gold protocol, I'm not quite sure what is that. To be honest, I never actually had a need to go there, so I can't really tell you what is that. So, and obviously order. If you click order, this is where you can buy a gold. And again, there was a video about how to buy a gold, and you can click the link below, so you can watch that. Okay. So now we've got our point 6, 7, and 8, which I've actually already discussed. That was the base destroy button, okay, the self-destruction button, the Q button, and the speed up button. So we've already discussed this. So we're gonna move now to number 10. Now number 9 was the vehicles, but I'm gonna leave that till the end actually, because number 10 is quite important before we start talking about the vehicles. So number 10, and this is what I've noticed, the biggest mistakes to everyone who's starting. I mean, I dare to say I never seen anyone who actually read the description of the troops. At least since I've been here, every new guy mainly looking at the look of the vehicle and it's just making them. And to be honest, I was one of those people. So I remember I've made 4 or 6 sets of Stalin tank, okay, cost me a lot of gold, I mean a lot of steel and aluminium, and then I went to attack the base, which is absolutely insane, right? So I barely scratched the base, I lost them all, and I need to wait another day for the resources because I've just drain it for them. Okay, so what is very, very important is to read the description of the troops. Okay, so if I go in here and I read, what I mean, read the description is not the name, not what the vehicle is called, but it's actually description. So this one is multi-role tank armed with rockets, can attack ground and air units. Now that information just tells us that it can shoot to the planes and to the ground units, right? So it doesn't really tell you how to use it, and that's why I'm making the videos. So this particular one, I've already made a video, so you can click the link below and you can show how to use it. But at least they tell you that this unit can shoot planes or helicopters, basically air units and the ground units. Okay, now if we go to this unit, for example, right, it says heavy howitzer, good against base, and then you look at the firepower. Okay, now the firepower says 150 to 37,500. Now what that means, that if you use that vehicle against another vehicle, the firepower on that vehicle will only be 150. Okay, however, if you use this vehicle for base defense, the damage the base defense is going to receive is 37,500. Okay, so you need to use right tool for the right job. Now let's go to this one, for example, anti-air tank, good against air units. Now you've got the firepower 200 to 5,000. Now if you can use that unit to attack ground units, it will shoot, but it will only give damage of 200. Okay, and that relates to all the vehicles in here. Okay, so you need to read that description. Now slowly I will be making a video for every one of them, so you know, after I don't know how long, but hopefully we can cover all of them. In my opinion, very important to know, which it doesn't say, is the skink. Again, you can click the video below. I've made a video of that. This skink, the description only says good against aircraft, but not so good against helicopters. High weapons range against aircraft. Okay, now it's not really good for helicopters, I can admit this, because its range is only 8. However, the planes, I don't know what's the range of the planes, but I could say it's like probably at least 3 times of that. They've got the highest range when it comes to shoot the planes. Okay, and if you can make a group of 19 of them, then you know none of the plane can actually survive this. Okay, so these are the best troops for the planes. Okay, so this is something I needed to tell you when you start playing the game. In terms of tanks, this one is probably the most cost effective, and it does cost like almost 10 million, but it gives firepower 7,500 and it's got an armor of over 4,000. This is very good tank, but this one you only use against other vehicles. Okay, so if you're planning to either defend yourself from attacking enemy, or you plan to attack other troops, you can make them, especially a group of it, it's 5 of them in a group. These are a proper choice. Okay, something I'm using at the very beginning when I'm starting a map, it's these tanks. Okay, Now, not too expensive. The firepower is 2000, which is quite reasonable. Armor 250, which is still okay, but their speed is 2, which is generally twice as fast as any other tank. Okay, so you can much quicker you can get to the point where you want to get. And as I said, when you start in a game or start in a map, you really need to be quick. There is a tendency when we start in a map, the very first base you want to take is the train base. Once you take the train base, and then I can't say you almost won the map, but that's the tendency. If you get a train, you can see every map, the train tracks takes usually about half of the map. So whoever wins the trains, they can at least cover pretty much half of the map. So this is what you have to remember. When you start in the game, try to aim for the train base and protect it, and ideally, if you can, put a long range flags, armor and everything, because this is where everyone goes when they start the game, where they start a new map. Okay. What else from the vehicles? I'm using GPF again. You can click the link below. This is where you want to attack the base, but the base cannot have long range flags. If they have long range, this is not good to use, because even though they've got a high range, I mean the range is 6, but again, if you read the description, howitzer with 3 times weapon range if the target base fires. So you can position that behind the base, for example, if they don't have the long range flags, and the moment the base starts shooting, that will shoot at the base. Okay, so I remember I did use them quite often, especially at the beginning. Okay, the rest, the rest I will be going through it. So now, what I wanted to talk about also about the troops is the what you should look at also, except reading the description. Okay, so I just want to explain that this is described in the game help, and it's quite nicely described. So if you go in here and you go help and you go to unit, you've got that explanation in here. How much firepower the unit has against not optimized target, how much firepower the unit has against optimized target. Oh, sorry, about not optimized target, and this is optimized target. Okay, so this is what I've explained. And then you've got your armor, you've got your weapon range, radius of sight. Then you've got your military point. Now this is where your military points will be added as you play along, right? So for example, this plane, if you make 10 of them, that's gonna eat 1500 of your military points, right? So you can see every troop you're making is gonna be adding up to the military points. And then you may get to the point where you've got this information that you run out of military points and you need to put more military centrals. So at that point, just build few more until the message clears, and then you can build again. Okay. Then the groups is basically how many of those particular vehicles or planes can be in one group. Okay, so in this case you can only make 5, and then if you already have 5 in the group and you're producing another plane, it's going to create another group. Okay, that's your speed of the vehicle or the plane or helicopter, and the fuel consumption. The fuel consumption, I wouldn't really look at the fuel consumption as such. I mean, it is what it is. But as I said, I've been playing. I mean, the only plane which I've noticed fuel consumption was this Horten plane bomber, and I was eating like, you know, crazy. Other than that, I don't think you will ever find a problem with the fuel. So going back to the troops, so yeah, this is pretty much it. When you are going through the tutorial, they will show you how to move the vehicles. Now, what I can show you, let me just see if I've got some troops here. If you make, oh, by the way, the bomber, for example, is a group of 1. So one bomber is gonna take you 1 group, okay? So if you want 20 bombers, the 20 bombers is gonna take you 20 groups. So you just need to think about it. If you want to play, and let's say your audience doesn't have too many people, and especially not many people are around at the same time, you just need to, if you want to have fun, don't use all your groups for the bombers, because with just the bombers you won't be able really to do much. You really need a breeder, at least have a breeder to attract the flags, and then to attack the base. You can see that on the link below, how to use the planes as well. So hopefully that will be helpful. Now I just wanted to show you how to regroup. So you see I've got 2 helicopters, okay? Now that's 2 groups, but let's say I don't want only 2 helicopters in 1 group, right? So what I can do, I can click, like left click on this group, and then right as I have this indicated, I right click on this group, and then 1 helicopter will go into this group. Okay? And that will be 3 helicopters. Now if I want more, I can just click more, and that way you can regroup your troops if you need to. Okay? What else we've got here? So obviously this is all your vehicles on any base. You got a helicopter base. In helicopter base you can make a few other tanks which you won't be able to do anywhere else, which is, for example, this one. This one it's a crazy tank, very, very slow, but you can see the firepower is 5,000 and the armor is 7,500. Okay, very strong tank. And again, if you read the description, good against ground unit, double range if a mobile target fires or moves. So you can position that in the base. If someone just coming over, it will double the range, and its range is 10, so 20 range is quite a long range. So having them especially in one group, which those helicopters, okay? Again, we will be going through them in one of the videos. Piece of toy, let's call personally, it. And what I really like is those ones. Now, it's the weakest, but in quantities they are unbeatable. Unbeatable. You do like 15 or 20 sets, there is nothing which can prevent that bunch of helicopters to do a lot of damage, but to your troops. I wouldn't worry seeing a bunch of those going into your base. You know, I wouldn't worry about that. But your troops, you know, even if you have a fully flagged base with a long range flags, and then you've got your troops at that base, I can guarantee you, if 20 groups of those fly over, you're not gonna have much troops left after they're gone. Okay, so these are really, really nice in large quantities. The rest are, you know, so this is the spy helicopter. so you can you know, quite often using them in the if I want to scout it, but generally I would rather use the plane. They are more expensive but are much faster. Okay, so these are the planes. This is the Horten. You always should have at least one, in my opinion. It's really it's fast moving, and you can get it and you can scout it. And the armors 2000. Helicopter are very weak. So if you run the helicopter into the base, which has a jammer and a detector, there's no way to escape. You will be shot. This one, because of the 2000 armor, will be able to still escape, and probably you can view like a 2 or scout 2 or 3 bases like that. So and then you've got other planes, but again I will be going through them in the other video. This is the bomber, so this is the plane which everyone uses the most. Okay, again, read the description. This is very important. You can look at some of the planes which looks cool, but you go to this one, it looks like a very nice bomber, but it says good against boats. So if you make them and you start attacking base, it's just a waste of resources. Yeah, so always use the troops which are designed for a particular target. Yeah. So that was the air base. We were in the helicopter base, and then you've got boats, which is, let me just find my boat base. Just 1 second. Okay, so boat. So the base itself is, there's no different to any other base. Okay, except you've got that bit in here, and this is where you can produce the boats. Okay, now the important bit you should know: this boat is a conquest boat. So this is quite nice, because let's say you're gonna attack this base, right? But your base is in here. Now look, if I want to send my APC, I would normally have to travel all the way here through the bridge and then go back. And obviously your enemy can be quite mean and keep shooting that, right? But if you destroy that base, you can make that conquest boat and just drive up in here, and that's it. Okay, so I didn't know that at first, so I think it's good to mention. And the thing I've figured about the submarine can only, and this is really crazy, but submarine can only be shot by either AMS or the torpedo boat. You cannot shoot, obviously the flags from the base that will shoot the submarine. But if you are in the fight, don't bother to send any other troops, even the plane. The plane will be shooting at the submarine, okay, but it won't do any damage. Even the plane, which is designed for the boats, they won't do anything. So you see, I'm hesitating, but I'm pretty sure even the plane designed for the boat can't really shoot the submarine. Yeah, don't hold me on that. I'll double check so I can confirm, but I'm pretty sure the only way to destroy the submarine is through the torpedo boat, AMS, obviously the submarine as well, right? So I think just those three can destroy the submarine. Okay, and the last base is the train base, which is the think most important base in every map. Okay, again, the base itself is no different to any other, but then you've got this one, and you've got the trains. Okay, now these are now the B12, BL12. These trains you're using for attacking the base, and then these trains, these are anti-air trains, so these you usually use to attract the flak, so those can shoot from the distance. Now I will do the video about them, you know, in the next few days probably. But at the moment, this is what you need to know. The other thing, this is against the trains. This is kind of mix, and this is good against the ground vehicle. A very high range. You can see if you read the description, the weapon range is 18, and this is twice weapon range if the target gun is firing. Okay, very long range. Okay, so I think this is it. Now I'm not sure whether I've covered everything, but if you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments, and I will try to answer. So, well, thank you very much for watching. I mean, if you survived that long, because I think that was like over an hour. But I hope that will be useful for you. So thank you once again, and I will see you in the next video.